all you cool cats and kittens. Nate Palmer here, Coach Nate from the $1 Million Body Podcast. I wonder if you can get sued for saying that on the internet these days. I'm not totally sure. Either way, welcome back to another episode of the $1 Million Body Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Nate, and today we are talking about some questions that we've gotten over the last few weeks. So we're going to be addressing three main questions today. Number one, how do I get a six-pack, especially if I've never had one before? Number two, what are some exercises that can really help my posture? And number three, what are the exercises that I should be doing, or what should I be doing if I don't care about my strength or really function or mobility or flexibility, but just want to look good? So we're going to talk about those today, just something a little bit fun and different. Maybe these are questions that you've had before as well. Maybe you've been curious about what is it? What about having a six-pack? Is that something that's reserved for Michael Phelps type athletes, or is that something that is feasible for busy parents, business owners, and other people with actual lives and no time to swim for 10 hours a day? So I'll tell you a story. This reminds me of a lot of one of my clients who had come in when I was working in Seattle, and he had been like, okay, my goal basically is I want to get healthy. And if you ever talked to me about your goals before, you know that my question is, okay, why? So I like to definitely get to the bottom of things, because getting healthy, losing 5 pounds, running a 5K, those are not real life goals. There's generally something underlying there. And so we talked. We probably talked for like 90 minutes, him and I. I finally got to the bottom of it, and he was like, man, I have always been out of shape. I've always, even when I was in good physical condition, I always looked out of shape. I always felt like I had just a little bit of a pudge. I never felt like I was the guy who could tear his shirt off. Even when I was running 6 to 10 miles, I ran a half marathon, but still never felt like I looked good. It's my dream to be able to have at least a 4-pack. He's like, a 6-pack would be amazing, but man, if you can help me get a 4-pack, he's like, I think that's kind of out of reach. I don't think I can do it. And I was like, well, let's depends on how much you want it, what are you willing to sacrifice, blah, 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 typical trainer stuff, right? But I was like, let's dive into it. If that's what you want, you don't have to tell me you want to be healthy if you really want to get visible abs. Let's chase after what you want. If you're coming here, you're gonna pay for a personal trainer, let's get you what you want. And so this guy who had come in, and he had self-proclaimed not athletic. His biggest athletic feats have been running for long distances, because he had thought that, okay, running equals fit. I saw it on the Rocky movies, therefore abs, fight Ivan Drago, we all get that, right? Most of us at some point or other have been like, man, I want to get fit, let's run. Even though that's not necessarily the best way to have that 6-pack to look really, really fit. And we'll talk about that, obviously, on that third question. So we started working together, and we just changed a few simple things about his diet, changed a lot about how he timed his meals in terms of what he was eating when. We never really took anything away. He had ice cream 3 times a week. He would still go to drink once a week with friends, whatever, but just changed a few simple things, and then gave him a very specific exercise to do 3 times a week on his own. I'll tell you what that is, but at the end of I think it ended up being 4.5 months, maybe 5 months, because we were kind of approaching summer in Seattle, and summer in Seattle is different from everywhere else in the world, because summer in Seattle, even if it's bordering on barely 60, people are out on the grass. If the sun is out, people are out in their bathing suits no matter what temperature it is. They're it's June 18th, it's 56 degrees, but the sun is out, they're like bikini time. So I know we were coming up, it was they say summer in Seattle starts July 5th, always after July 4th. So we were coming up on July, and we had started training in late February. And he texted me this picture of him at the beach. There's a beach in Seattle, surprisingly enough. Got small rocks. But he sends me the picture of the beach, looking pretty ripped. He's lean, he's got the 4-pack abs. And he was like, man, I feel like such a badass today. I feel so awesome. And it was obviously I love seeing my clients get results. Every trainer does. That's why we get into it, because we like to see people get healthy. Most trainers, myself included, are generally just kind of douchey, over excited about protein, talk about tilapia and say words like autophagy, which, makes us douchey. But at the end of the day, all of us want is to see our clients, see other people get healthier, live vibrant lives. That's just it. That's the secret about personal trainers. But I remember being so pumped because he was like, dude, this goal that I thought was not even feasible for me as like someone who sits at a desk all day long, you know, who's got a lot of stress in his life. I work 60 hours a week. I didn't think I could get a six pack ever, but I have one now, like thanks to like some of these little protocols we put in place. So I want to share with you a little bit about what we did to him, specifically that one exercise that I think can really transform a physique, especially if you are not with someone you would consider athletic, or if you've never had a six pack before. This is the thing you need to be doing. There's a lot of stuff that you can be doing, like the way changing your diet. Obviously, we're not going to get into that. It's not the scope of the episode, but changing your diet, changing the pre and post workout meals, figuring out if you're insulin resistant versus, and we can, like, all that stuff aside, this exercise can do more for your six pack than anything else, any other exercise that you could do. Okay. So number one, we got rid of all the machine exercises. We put them all on body weight exercises and free weights. Okay. So basically our workouts would look like this. We would do a body weight superset to warm up. Superset, if you don't know, is just basically two exercises back to back. So I would be like, if we're on a leg day, for example, we would do like a squat and a hamstring curl on a TRX. Okay, we do those back and forth to get warmed up. Then we would do a big compound movement. That's like a squat or a deadlift or a pull up, anything that's multi-joint. We're gonna do that as kind of our main, like a bread and butter of the exercise of the workout. And then we would do either one or two circuits after that that were primarily body weight, time-based, that would really get him sweating and crank up his motor, okay? So the point of that was several, like there's a couple of things in there that are important. Number one, the superset. We started that off to, we call it grease the groove, like pattern the movement. Make sure that when you show up to that big compound movement, you're ready. Your joints are prepared, your muscles are prepared, everything's good to go, okay? So it's like, that's a good way to warm up without being like, well, I'm doing these internal, external rotations. Oh, I have to roll my quads out. So it's a good way to get ready for the workout without blowing yourself up or spending 15 minutes doing this with a band. Then we would do the big compound move, and we would work up to a heavier set. Okay, we would always make sure we worked up to the heavy set for him, because a couple of different things are there. Number one, we're getting a lot of muscles working at the same time. That causes a gigantic hormonal release. So for guys, testosterone and growth hormone are two essential ingredients to getting your six pack. And one of the best ways to release them naturally, to get more of them naturally, is with heavier, compound, full body exercises. Squats, deadlifts, bench press, pull-ups, all those are great moves, okay? And then we would finish with body weight supersets or circuits. And the reason we would do that, if you listen to any of these other episodes I've talked about body weight exercise on before, you'll know that that is one of the prime ways to tell your body and your brain to release fat and to build muscle. It works with our evolutionary mechanisms because we don't know that we're not being chased by the Tiger King or a tiger, both terrifying. So our body naturally forces us to release non-functional tissue, that's our fat, and forces us to gain muscle, more functional tissue, make us faster, stronger, more resilient, keep us alive. Your body's primary focus is to keep you alive. I've said that many times on this podcast. So with those things in mind, okay, that's how he structured his workouts, generally speaking. With those things in mind, let's get into now the secret weapon for getting a six pack. Okay, so if we're thinking, okay, body weight movement, moving your body through space, signals to your brain to release fat, then it stands to reason that one of the best things we can do is actually run, sprint, run, jump, things that are going to be of paramount importance if we are trying to escape from Carol Baskin. Again, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on the internet yet. I'm not sure. So, yes, you could go to a track and sprint. You could go outside and just jog, but the sprints are going to be much more effective and much more powerful if you do them on an incline, on a hill sprints, okay? They're also, as the name might suggest, incredibly shitty and hard, okay? So doing a hill sprint is a great alternative for especially us who are not necessarily super athletic. We haven't run since sophomore year PE, because the hill puts us at a little bit of a better angle where we have to actually angle our body forward to match the hill, which puts us in a better running posture. And then when we strike our foot on the ground, rather than striking all the way back down and having a tremendous amount of force go up into the ankle, the knee, the hip, we are stepping up essentially, depending on how big the hill is, that's going to really negate a lot of that force and keep your knees, ankles, hips, low back safer. So if you haven't run in a long time, hills are going to slow you down and keep you safe. Bottom line, end of story. Bottom story, end of the line. So hill sprints, how do you do them? Well, I think if you're doing hill sprints and you're doing them all out, you're not going to be able to do 30, 40 gassers here. We're going to need to keep this below 10, especially to start. So give yourself a couple of warm-up runs. Start off with 50%, jog up, walk down, a little faster now. And then let's get 8 in. Just 8. Sprint up, slowly build up to a top speed for you. Then walk back down. Rest until you're recovered. Go again. Okay? Want to make sure that you recover because a hill sprint has much more in common with a heavy front squat than it does with a jog or a 3-mile jog or a 10K race. So doing these hill sprints, these repeats, signal to your body over and over and over again, we might die, let's drop fat. And you're going to be burning a lot of fat because the movement is so explosive. It's very difficult. So you take the technicality out of it by doing them on a hill. We do them with plenty of rest in the middle. And then you're doing them at a maximum speed. And if you do those 2 to 3 times per week, 8 to 10 reps per, and then if the hill is probably about 50 to 80 yards, 80 meters, if you guys are outside the US, that's going to give you some incredible results. That's the secret right there. Don't say I never gave you anything. So try it out. Let me know what you think. The greatest thing about this is you can do them 3 times a week without really getting super sore. And what we're looking for is maximum intensity for that hormonal release and to burn a ton of fat doing it. Awesome. Next question we got from Jonathan in the group asked, what are some exercises I can do to keep my posture really good? I tend to get slouched over. Well, that's an awesome question for a lot of us who work at a desk. If we're building a business, if we are entrepreneurs, if we're on sales calls all the time, if we're working at our computer doing video conferencing, whatever it is, we tend to get that forward roll computer posture, okay? So there's 2 things we need to be doing. We need to be mobilizing. We need to be getting some more ability of our spine to move correctly. And we also need to strengthen ourselves, pull ourselves back, and put ourselves in a proper position. So I think there's 2 things that you need for this. Number 1, a band. You've got to have a band. Band is just going to be a clutch piece of your arsenal in keeping your posture great. The second thing, a TRX, suspension trainer, bought in a box. Also awesome. So with that in mind, what we want to do first is to mobilize, is to either get a foam roller. You can do this on a pillow. You can do this on, I guess, 2 soup cans. I'm not totally sure. But one way I really like to do is take 2 tennis balls, put them into a tube sock, and then tie that tube sock. Take those tennis balls, start them off right below that big neck joint you have on your spine. 1 down from that, put the balls on the side of your spine, and then arch over the top of them. Get some movement in that spine. Each joint should have a 1.5 degrees range of motion. Most of us lose it because the T-spine should actually be a reverse curve. Most of us have the opposite. It's called kyphosis. It's that look that grandpas have when they're rolled forward and they're kind of hobbling around. That's not what we want. We want to be the opposite direction, lifted, our chest up. Majority of shoulder problems in older men come from the fact that your T-spine sucks and you have no mobility there. So what we do instead of losing our T-spine to reach up that top shelf and grab a can of soup, a lot of soup today, is we reach up with our shoulder and neck, and then all of a sudden we're like, wow, I can't move my shoulders anymore. I have a frozen shoulder. It's like, well, yeah, but it started off as your T-spine mobility not being very good. So put those 2 balls on your back, lean over them, do a couple repetitions, and then move that down 1 vertebrae. Do it again. Open up, open up, open up. Another really good one is getting on your knees, putting your elbows on a bench, a couch, a chair in front of you, and then just arching your mid-back. You're going to be tempted to arch your low back. Don't do that. Instead, make sure you're arching your mid-back. Get some mobility. From there, we need 2 different things. We need rows. We need a lot of rows in our life, and we need a lot of scapular movement. We need more shoulder blade movement, okay? So we can do that a couple different ways. Number 1, my favorite exercise for staying super strong and healthy all day long is a band pull apart. Just grabbing in front, pulling that apart, squeezing our shoulder blades back and together, not moving from the elbows. If you do 100 of those a day and you already have good function, you'll never have a problem. You'll have safe, healthy shoulders forever. So make sure you have a band for that. Another great band exercise is a face pull. Attaching it to something in front of you and pulling it until your hands are basically by your ears. A third exercise that I really like is just going to be a body weight row. So on a TRX, just pulling yourself in, making sure you're pulling with your elbow, pulling your elbows back, and not pulling a lot of people like I see a lot of people do with their biceps. So those are all good, and I got some, I'll include some video links to those in the show notes, so make sure you check that out. There'll be some YouTube videos here as well. So, but I can't stress to you how important it is to take care of your posture right now while it's still good, because going back and trying to fix busted posture sucks, and it's really hard, and it takes a lot of work, and probably a lot of money, and probably a lot of annoyance, and it's probably gonna hurt your shoulders, and you're gonna be like, wow, I wish I had taken care of this 20 years ago when that one weird guy with his $1 Million Body podcast was telling me about it. You have a man bun. So take care of it now and let it pay dividends for the rest of your life. Good posture is awesome, because not only will good posture help your shoulder health, everything else, but the good posture will literally make you more confident. If you walk into a room with your chest up like this, science shows that people have more confidence from just 60 seconds of standing with great, almost over-exaggerated posture. You stand like this with your hands on your hips or your hands above your head, your confidence and your self-esteem goes up a measurable percentage just because your postures do better. That's why power postures are powerful. Power postures are so pertinent. So do it now. Don't do it later. Just make sure you maintain it. Maintenance is way easier than change. Trust me. Okay. Last question we got. So Tyler had emailed and said, hey, silly question, but I don't want to get strong. I don't really care about being able to bench press 300 pounds. I don't care about being able to max out my pull-ups. I don't care about a lot of these things that people say they want. He's like, if truth be told, I just want to look good. How do I do that without having to do all the rest of these things, the mobilizations, the stretching, the yoga, the drinking green smoothies? He's like, what are like the basics that I need to incorporate to look good from an aesthetic perspective? How do I look good at the beach? And I was like, man, that's not a bad question. No, that's a great question, because I think if we think about that, even if you don't want to necessarily, you want to be strong, you don't necessarily only want to look good, you want to have all the qualities, these are still great exercises to keep in mind, because they're going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. So number one, we want to think about the hourglass physique. Kind of there's a golden ratio that just provides a more visually appealing look. And it's broad shoulders, narrow waist, little bit broader hips and legs, okay? So I'm just gonna talk about the upper body right now. What we need to be focusing on is a couple different things. Narrow waist, first and foremost. And I think most people want this, whether they say it or not, just because the idea of a narrow waist is healthy. It looks more visually appealing, and people correlate that with fat loss, six-pack. So one of the best exercises you can do for that is called a vacuum, all right? So basically what this is bringing, drawing your abs in and squeezing them as tight as you can. So trying to make your waist thinner, 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 thinner. So start off with a deep breath. And then as you exhale, you do that exercise. Bonus points if you put your hands above your head or behind your head like this. If you're watching the video, you'll be able to see it. I just like to put them behind my head, both elbows pointing at the ceiling. And then as I exhale, draw in. So we want to almost feel like a crampy contraction through like the lower sides of the abs. That's going to let you know that you're actually doing it right. You're using your transverse abdominis and you're bringing everything in. Now, this is not an exercise that you do at the gym and you do 12 reps and you move on. This is an exercise that you can do 1 rep of 10 times a day, every day. So this is an easy one to do at your chair. This is an easy one to do just like when you're taking a deep breath at the end of like a yoga or meditation session. This is just a kind of a constant exercise that you can be doing that's going to give you massive results over time, but very little to show for it, like if you do it in the next 3 days. So vacuums, first and foremost, I have a great article written on that if you want more information or a more detailed tutorial. Number 2, we want to think about the width, shoulder width and lat width, okay? So we need to focus on your lats, okay? Making sure that you have a little bit of we call it wings, we call it lats, we call it back width, whatever. We want to make sure that you have that reverse triangle look, because even if you don't lose anything from the waist, if we make your lats a ½ inch bigger on each side, it makes your waist look an inch smaller. So just, even if we're just playing with like the visualizations here, you're going to look leaner, you're going to look more muscular and leaner by just focusing on back width and then shoulder width. So I'm going to tell you the two best exercises for that as well. So the back width, the one I like that you're probably not doing, because most of us know how to do a lat pull down, but you're probably not doing straight arm pull downs. So what that is I like to set a cable stack, cable pulley, about eye height, grab onto a rope handle in front of me, bend forward at the waist so my arms are extended straight, and then pull that straight down. So I keep my arms bent at about a 5 or 10 degree angle, but locked into that position, no movement from there. And then as you pull down and back, you'll feel a great squeeze underneath your armpit, kind of in the back, and that's what's gonna really help you build out and fill out those lats, the back width, especially if you've never done them before. So doing those for sets of 12 to 15 can be a great way to build the back width, Tyler. And then the last one is shoulders. So again, building out the width in the shoulders, even if you just build out like an inch total circumference, it goes by an inch. Again, it's gonna make your waist look more narrow, and that's what we're looking for. If we just want aesthetics, here are my top 3 for getting lean for the beach, or at least having the appearance of it, if you don't start prepping for this until like 2 weeks before. So what I like to do for this one is, if you don't have a cable stack, I'm going to tell you a dumbbell exercise. Sitting down on a bench on a dumbbell with 2 dumbbells in your hands. Make sure the dumbbells are touching the sides of the bench, and then lift up to the side. Bring them back down so they're touching the bench again. Bring them back up. Okay, so we're going to be doing dead stops at the bottom, and you're not going to be coming all the way down to your side, because there's not much that happens for your shoulders from your sides to about 45 degree angles. It gets a lot harder at that point. So we're going to touch the bench, lift back up. We're going to do as many reps in that position as we can. And then as soon as you finish as many as you can there, looking to feel it in the outside of the shoulders and not in the traps and neck, not up in the upper neck. We want to keep that down and back with our great posture that we already have from our previous exercises. Then stand up and just rep out with a little bit more, we'll call it body English. I don't want to call it sloppy lifting, because it's tactical, right? Time and a place for it. So start off sitting on the bench, lift up to the side, drop it back down, pause for a half second, and do that for reps until you're repped out. Stand up, and with a little bit of a pop, little body English, finish those reps out. That's going to give you a great effect in the shoulders, because we're going to be working on basically just the lateral deltoid, or the medial deltoid, or the side delt, or the shoulder thing, or the cap, or the boulder shoulders. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. We're basically working on that specific muscle group that's going to help you look wider, given the appearance of a more narrow waist. So those are my top 3 secret exercises that you can really do to get a great training effect, as well as giving yourself the appearance of being in better shape than you might actually be. So doesn't mean that you can't do those. If you want more for your life, you want vibrant health, boundless energy, a ton of strength, that sort of thing. But it's a great place to start when you are looking to change the way you appear. Okay. So just to wrap out, we talked today about building a six-pack, especially if you've never had one before. We talked about great posture, and we talked about the appearance, the mirror muscles. How do we make ourselves look better without our shirt on? And if this is something that you've ever struggled with, just drop me a like, and we can kind of discuss. Drop me a like, drop me a comment here below. We can discuss specifically how you can get those results in your own life. So if you want more about this, drop a comment below, give me a thumbs up, say I'm in, and I can get you a little bit more information on some of those aspects that we talked about in today's podcast. Hope you guys are doing super awesome during this very strange time in our lives. I'll talk to you very soon. $1 Million Body Podcast, we out.